Good evening and welcome to the City of Woodstock's virtual public planning meeting. Tonight's meeting is an open public meeting as required by the Planning Act. This meeting is being live streamed to the city's YouTube channel, and a recording of the meeting will also be posted on the city's website following the meeting. An agenda of the meeting can be found on the agendas, meetings, and minutes pages of the city's website. This meeting is for information and discussion purposes only, and no decisions will be made this evening. Council will make a decision on these matters at the regular council meeting to be held this Thursday, April the 21st at 1:30 p.m. If you wish to address council at that meeting as well, you must submit a delegation form to the city clerk no later than 2 p.m. on Tuesday, and a delegation form is available on the city website. Due to the nature of a virtual meeting, the public has been asked to submit a request to speak in advance to allow for pre-meeting tests with the IT department. Those wishing to make a presentation will join the meeting via video conference, while those wishing to provide comments or answer questions only will call into the meeting via telephone. When recognized by the chair to speak, you must provide your name and address for the public record before giving comments. Only the applicant or people who provide oral or written comments regarding the application are entitled to appeal council's decisions to the Ontario Land Tribunal. Please keep your comments to planning matters only and avoid repeating comments that have already been expressed. If you have not provided oral or written comments but wish to receive formal notice of council's decision on the matter, please contact the clerk's department. The notice will provide further information on appealing the decision. The planner will be asked to present the planning report for each application. The applicant then will be provided an opportunity to make comments, followed by those wishing to speak in favor of the application, and then followed by those wishing to speak in opposition to the application. Prior to proceeding with the first application, does anyone wish to declare a pecuniary interest on any items that are on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, we'll start with our first application, which is ZN 8-2026, application for zone change, Sapson Holdings Woodstock, Inc. The applicant proposes to rezone the subject lands from Special Highway Commercial Zone C433 and Special Highway Commercial Zone C435 to amended Special Highway Commercial Zone C435 and Special Highway Commercial Zone C450 to satisfy a condition of B2074-8 and facilitate the redevelopment of the enlarged lands. The subject lands are described as Lot 8 and Part Lot 9, Plan 1626 in the City of Woodstock. The lands are located at the southwest corner of Dundas Street and Oxford Road 4 and are municipally known as 1494 and 1534 Dundas Street. And I'll call on our planner, Andrea Haschler, to go through the application.
Thank you. So the first application tonight is for a zone change, and the applicant is proposing to rezone both the retained lands and the recently enlarged lands to facilitate a 5-story hotel and restaurant on the enlarged lands. As council will likely recall, these subject lands were previously severed. On the retained lands, the owner of the property has constructed a gas station and a restaurant, as well as a car wash. And so the applicant is also requesting site-specific zoning for the retained land, and that would be simply to address the new lot line, and so setbacks related to that lot line. And then with respect to the enlarged lands, as council can see, the lands are zoned both C4-35 and C4-33. So the zone change will eliminate a split zoning, which will satisfy a condition of the severance application that Councillor Talbot pointed out. In addition to that, it would allow an increase in the height of the hotel from it's approximately 36 feet or 11 meters to 5 stories. In addition to that, the applicant is requesting a number of other site-specific provisions that would facilitate both the restaurant as well as the hotel. The retained lands are approximately 2 acres in size, and the enlarged lands are approximately 2.4 acres, and the enlarged lands are currently vacant. And then just the thought behind rezoning the lands to an amended C4-35, as council can see, that smaller parcel that used to have a house on it is zoned C4-35. So a number of years ago, the owner of that property came forward with a zone change to have a site-specific zone to allow for I believe it was a fencing installation, sales, and service use. And so instead of assigning a new site-specific zone to it, I'm just proposing that we amend the C4-35 zone. We will limit that fencing business because it's no longer relevant. And then the C4-35 zone will reflect what the applicant is proposing to council tonight. So the subject lands are designated service commercial. So the uses that are being proposed on the site, the hotel and the restaurant, are contemplated by these policies. The site-specific zoning that exists on the lands is a C4-33, which is a zone, as council can see, that's applied to most of this area. It was established during when the lands were brought in with the East Woodstock secondary plan, and it permits a very broad range of service commercial type uses or highway commercial type uses, including the hotel and the restaurant. So those uses are already permitted, and the applicant is just simply requesting a number of site-specific provisions that would accommodate the uses. So more specifically, I won't go into great detail because council has these details before them, but basically the applicant's looking to reduce the front yard depth, interior side yard width, again, the height for the hotel, reducing parking setbacks, as well as reducing the number of truck loading spaces and passenger loading spaces, and that would be for the enlarged lands. And then for the retained lands, the applicant is looking to reduce the setbacks to the western lot line for parking, and then also the rear yard depth. So the application was circulated to a number of agencies. City staff were supportive of the application. Parks indicated that they will have requirements for landscape plans through the site plan approval process, and through the, as council knows, through the site plan approval process, a number of other matters will be addressed with respect to lighting, parking, access, snow storage, etc. And then the application also went out for public consultation through the public notification process, and we received no comments from neighboring property owners. Staff are supportive of the application. We feel that it is in keeping with the provincial policy statement as it promotes efficient use of land, resources, existing infrastructure, and public service facilities. It also supports economic development and a mix and range of employment uses in a designated settlement area. We feel, as I indicated before, that it's in keeping with the policies of the official plan for service commercial uses. And then with respect to the request for site-specific provisions, staff are supportive of the proposals. Although the parcels are being, they're two separate parcels under separate ownership, they are being treated as a single parcel, and through the severance, an easement was established for parking as well as access across the two sites. And so they are, sorry, I should show you the site plan. So you can see that they are acting as a single parcel. So although there are setback reductions that are being proposed along this lot line here, staff are satisfied that won't have a negative impact on either of the properties. And in fact, we support the idea of the two properties acting as a single property. Further to that, the other request was to reduce the parking or the passenger loading spaces for both truck loading spaces as well as passenger loading spaces. We're also supportive of that based on the fact that it's a hotel and a restaurant, and they have fluctuating parking needs throughout the day. And so we feel that loading can take place throughout the day without interfering with parking requirements. And then with respect to the height of the hotel, although it's going from the 11 meters or 36 feet, so 5 stories, we're satisfied that it won't have a negative impact on any neighboring properties. There are no sensitive land uses in the area. It's a mix of service commercial type uses as well as industrial uses. So we don't see an impact that increasing the height would have on any neighboring properties. So in light of that, we recommend that council approve this application.
Thanks, Andrea. Are there any questions from council through to Andrea? Seeing none, we do have Mark McCloskey. I don't know, he's the agent for this application. Mark, I didn't know if you wish to take any questions from council, if there are some, or if you had any comments.
Sorry, I have no comments at this time. I do appreciate everyone's time, and I think Andrea's presentation was very thorough.
Okay, thanks very much then. Seeing as there are no questions, we'll move, and there are no delegations to speak either in favor or against the application. We will go on to the next application. Thanks you, Mark, for joining us.
All right, thank you very much.
Our second application this evening is OP 21098 and ZN 82111, application for an official plan amendment and zone change. Supplementary report 2653009 Ontario Inc., 80 Wellington Street South, 503, 507, and 515 Main Street, and 89 Reeve Street. This application proposes to redesignate the subject's lands from entrepreneurial district to site-specific entrepreneurial district designation that permits a residential density of 178 units per hectare, 70 units per acre, and a maximum apartment building height of 6 stories. The applicant proposes to rezone the subject lands from the entrepreneurial to district to C3 to special residential zone 4, R4 SP, to facilitate the development of a 6-story apartment dwelling house with 50 residential units. The site-specific zoning will address a number of deficiencies to facilitate the proposed development. The subject lands are described as parts 2-5, Block 12, Plan 34 in the city of Woodstock. The lands are located on the north side of Main Street from Wellington Street South to Reeve Street and are municipally known as 80 Wellington Street South, 503, 507, and 515 Main Street, and 89 Reeve Street. And I'll call on you, Ms. Hassler, to go through the application, please.
Thank you. So this application for official plan amendment and zone change was previously considered by council. The applicant that was in December 2021, and the applicant has since amended the application to reduce the height of the proposed building. I can just scroll down here to the building elevation. So they have reduced the height of the building from 8 stories to 6 stories. And then they've also reduced the number of units from 56 units to 50 units. And so the applicant, though, still is applying to amend the official plan to redesignate the lands to increase the density as well as to increase the height. And so the density is being increased to 70 units per acre. And then again, the height, the 6 stories. And then also, as Councillor Talbot pointed out, the applicant is also requesting a site-specific R4 zoning, which would facilitate the apartment building and address a number of deficiencies. And the deficiencies very quickly are relating to lot area, lot frontage, rear yard depth, interior and exterior side yard width, and landscape open space. So just to give council a recap, the meeting from back in December, the applicant was present for the public meeting. Council and the applicant discussed the proposal. And then for the Thursday council meeting, the applicant had requested that the application be deferred so that they could go back and reconsider their plan and modify it. And so here before council tonight is the proposed amendments. And so overall, the overall area is 2,973 square meters. The property contains 2 single detached dwellings and accessory structures with which the applicant has indicated will be removed if the application is approved. And so council is likely familiar with this area. The applicant has, or the owner has consolidated or assembled a number of properties to facilitate development or redevelopment of this area. And so staff are, we went through all of the provincial policy. So in our opinion, the application, although it is a form of intensification and infill, which we generally support, we do have concerns with the overall density, again, of the site. The applicant they have reduced the overall height and the number of units. However, it's, I can just provide the numbers here. The maximum net residential density is 7 units per hectare or 30 units per acre. And the applicant is proposing 178 units per hectare or 70 units per acre. And so the subject lands are designated entrepreneurial district, which is part of our central area. This area usually allows for low and medium density residential. And so that's where that 30 units per acre cap comes into play. And so the applicant is of course proposing to amend the density. However, they are proposing to amend the density well beyond what's even permitted in our high density residential, which is 60 units per acre. And so again, they're proposing 70 units per acre. So although staff are supportive of a redevelopment of this site and we're supportive of a higher density on this site, we have concerns with the overall increase in density on the site. We also, based on the fact that this area has single detached dwellings, mostly 2-story dwellings, it is not an area that the neighboring property owners would anticipate building of this height or this density in this area. So generally speaking, we have a very similar opinion to our previous opinion that we brought forward to council for the previous proposal. But we are suggesting to council that if council is supportive of a redevelopment in this area of this height and of this density, that perhaps council directs staff to do a more comprehensive review of the central area in general, and that we review the boundaries of the central business district as opposed to the entrepreneurial district. And then we also take a look at the densities and the heights in the area and perhaps look at increasing these. And our suggestion is that this would occur on a more comprehensive level as opposed to supporting these single developments as one-offs. We definitely are supportive of the idea of redevelopment in the downtown area and more residential units in the area, but we feel that in this specific case, that as a one-off application, it's not supportable, as this area is generally supposed to have low and medium density residential. And so our recommendation is that the application not be approved. But if council chooses, we can definitely undertake a more comprehensive review of the entire central area. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Are there any questions from council through to our planner? Councillor Schadenberg?
One thing that's interesting is we started with metric conversion, whether it be feet and meters and stuff like that. And sometimes we get confused, Andrea. So I will ask a quick clarification. If there's 70 units per acre as a possibility in this entrepreneurial district. My math says that this 0.74 acres property could host, based on the math, 51.8 units, which is only 1.8 units higher than what they're proposing of a 50-unit apartment building, notwithstanding the number of stories at this point in time, just the number of units. Is my math right, Andrea?
Sorry, I have to, I'm just trying to go through the numbers for myself. Yeah, I'll have to calculate it here for a second. Sorry, bear with me.
Take your time.
If any other staff have it calculated faster than me, feel free. I just want to make sure I don't make a mistake here.
I mean, goes without saying, it is an odd shaped lot, sort of almost like with a big curve on it. So to calculate what the acreage is to begin with isn't easy, but based on the mathematics that was given to us about the square feet, I would think it's 0.74 acres.
Yeah, it's approximately, it's 0.734 acres. And so the cap is for the medium density is 30 units per acre. So if you multiply 30 by 0.734, it works out to 22 units.
Councillor Schadenberg?
Yeah, I guess through our chair back to our senior planner. The paragraph said that entrepreneurial district designation permits a residential density of 178 units per hectare or 70 units per acre. That's where I was getting my my math from, 70 units per acre. Since this is less than an acre, I came down with my math to 51.8 units.
Okay, so sorry, through Councillor Talbot to Councillor Schanberg's question. So the paragraph says the maximum net residential density is 70 units per hectare or 30 units per acre. So that's the max for the entrepreneurial district. And then it says the subject development is proposing 50 units, which will have an overall density of 178 units per hectare or 70 units per acre.
Are you satisfied, Councillor Schadenberg, or
Yep,
do you wish to continue?
that's fine. That's fine.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions from council for Andrea? Seeing none, Mr. Barton, I believe you're going to present the changes from the last application. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. You can go ahead.
Okay, so just, yes, we're here from the deferral from the previous application. So what we have done is, and I guess just overall what we are trying to achieve is to come up with a proposal that obviously takes into consideration the context of the property and its surroundings, but also its context in a unique location. It's in the central area, but it's also reflecting a gateway from the residential to the south. So we're trying to, work within the context of the current conditions in the neighborhood, this desire to achieve higher density, more people. I think when I was making a couple of notes here about what we're really trying to do, it came down to we see policies related to vibrancy and activity in the urban area, in the central area, the entrepreneurial district. So that really means getting people down here and being able to support. It's not only about residential, it's supporting businesses. It's supporting just the overall vibrancy. So I will pull up on my screen here the revised concept that we had. If you just give me 1 second just to make sure that it comes up correctly. What I have on the screen is going to show the different concepts that have evolved as we've been moving through this process. So what you should see on the screen now is a matrix of 4 designs. So moving from the left, we had originally been looking at an 8-story design. There were some changes where what was referred to as the wings that you can see on the top of the building were reduced. It was to reduce some massing. Then there was an option with 7-story, and that was looked at. But finally, what the owner and the architect came forward with, and what you're seeing today, is the solution with a 6-story building. So what that did was it reduces the number of units from 56 to 50. The building height has been now down 2 floors. And again, just a reminder that the ground floor incorporates screening of the parking that's at that level. So the intent is that when you're in the public realm and you're on Main and Wellington, you're not going to see the majority of these surface parking areas. They're going to be screened in that portion of the building. So now the parking supply actually complies with the requirements. So there's 2 spaces above what's required. So the one concern the first time around was that it was deficient on the zoning to the zoning in terms of parking. So now that parking requirement is met. So the intent again here, it has been, the owner had heard the concerns with the height. Obviously, this is exceeding the 4-story that the official plan is looking for in this area. It's exceeding density. So I think there was clarity there around this does fall within the realm of a high density building. But again, the intent here is really to look at the policies. When we look at provincial policy statements, looking at intensification in appropriate areas. I had given my planning justification report that's with the application actually relates to the 8-story design and how that fits within the context. So the 6-story, if you keep cutting this building down, you're really losing what the potential is for this site to represent, and that is that gateway into the community, that representing that you're now moving into the central area, that there's something different here. You want to get more activity and more people. I don't want to go into detail. We have the planning justification report. I provided more context at the last meeting, but really the intent here is to do something special to reflect its location at Main and Wellington, also the buffer that the rail corridor provides to the south, and really take an advantage. So the reduction in height helps with the concerns. There were shadows shown at limited times of the day. So it helps with that. It helps reduce the overall massing, helps reduce the parking demand, and just overall, I guess, impact to the neighborhood, whether it be urban design, massing. So that is what the intent is. But again, as I indicated, the owner really seeking to do something that's unique and represents this important location in the community.
Everything, Michael?
Yeah, I think with that, I would probably open it up to questions or anything specific without reiterating the items that are in my report and brought up at the previous meeting.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Barton from Council? Councillor Lauder? You're on mute, Councillor Lauder.
Actually, my question I missed getting through to Ms. Hashler, and it's about the comprehensive study that she had suggested that they could do in order to accommodate an apartment building like this in this area. So if there is, I'll let anyone else have their questions, if they would have questions through to Mr. Barton, and then I would just like to speak to Ms.
We can go
Hashler.
back. We'll come back to you. Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Barton regarding the application? Councillor Petter.
Yes, through the chair to Michael. If my memory serves me correctly, we beat up on you pretty good last time you were here back in December. I just wanted to say your passion is great. You're going in the right direction. Just don't stop. Just keep going. And we'll get you to the right level, and we'll get you to the right concentration of units, and we'll have a great little addition to our downtown. So don't give up. We'll get there sooner or later. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Petter. Is there any other comments from any other councillors? And Michael, I know that Nick is also joining us, as well as Corby. I don't know if they wanted to add anything, or they were just there for questioning as well.
Yeah, I would say if there's questions about the design or the elements of that, they could provide comment, I think, more on that. I did have a thought for the counselor regarding comprehensive review, unless she wanted to leave that to staff.
You can give your
I'd be
opinion
happy
if
to
you'd like at the moment.
Yeah, give my thoughts on that. I think the one challenge that we're going to find, it's not just in Woodstock, but it's going to be in any municipal with downtown locations where you're looking to growth or intensification, is finding properties that can be used for a project where you can achieve a reasonable intensification. So if you were to do a comprehensive review of whether it's the central area or whatever you establish the limits on, the challenge is going to be is actually realizing projects. So if you say, here's the area that we want to establish as the focus of intensification, you're really going to then need to see assembly of land, small parcels that are going to have to be assembled, focused into a larger parcel that can accommodate more high density. And then you get into then challenges with compatibility. So if you do a high density development next to smaller parcels, that's really the challenge. So this property provides that opportunity of a larger parcel relative to the surrounding area that also benefits from the context of some buffer and spatial separation elements. But then you can definitely look at like more of a comprehensive review, but I think you still run into challenges of someone being able to form a property and realize a project that achieves more of those high density goals.
Thank you, Michael, for your comments.
So I do have to just say that I do like the design that you're proposing here. So I think it looks real nice and would be nice for the gateway. So thank you for that explanation.
Thank you, Michael. I don't see any other questions from any other counselors, so appreciate your presentation tonight. And Andrew, if we can just go back and if you wanted to address Councillor Lauder's question. About the comprehensive study.
Sorry, Councillor Lauder, can you repeat what your question was?
I just wondered, in the comprehensive study, how long would that take to be able to do that? Or if we approve this with the understanding that there would have to be a comprehensive study done before, how long would it take to do this? Does it take a year, or does it take, it sounds quite involved, I would think.
Through Councillor Talbot to Councillor Lauder's question, yeah, I don't know exactly how long it would take us, but yes, we would like to do a larger undertaking of the entire central area to determine if there's other areas within the entrepreneurial district that should be moved into the central business district, and so that we could increase the number of units, over residential units in the downtown area. We also would probably look at like bigger picture at the types of uses that are being that are permitted in the entrepreneurial district. There's probably a lot of historic uses that are no longer relevant in that area. And so downtowns have changed quite a bit since when we probably established the zoning and the policies for this area. So yeah, it would likely take us a while to do it properly. We've had a number of, and this is kind of off topic, but it's related. We've had a number of, we've done the commercial policy review, which is almost, I think it's about 10 years old now. We've done the downtown revitalization study, and we've done the central area design guidelines. And so they made a number of recommendations, which we would probably pull into that comprehensive review at that point in time too. So, but yeah, there have been a number of different recommendations that definitely we'd like to look into. So I don't think, again, I don't think that it's a bad idea to intensify the downtown. I think it's great to have more residential units and more foot traffic in the central area. I just I'm always more comfortable if we can do it on a larger comprehensive review instead of these one-offs. And then the public has input too on what that looks like.
Okay, is that
Thank you.
enough of an explanation? Thank you. On this same application, there are no delegations that were registered to speak either in favor or against. So if there are no further questions, we'll move on to the last application. The last application is OP 21-22-8 and ZN 8-21-26, applications for official plan amendment and zone change, Benito Ficino, 50 Blandford Street. The applicant proposes to redesignate the subject property from low density residential to medium density residential to facilitate the development of 3 townhouse dwelling units. The applicant proposes to rezone the subject lands from residential zone 2 R2 to special residential zone zone 3 R3 SB to permit the townhouse development with a special provision to reduce the minimum interior side yard width for an end unit. The subject lands are described as part lots 76 and 77, planned 337 in the city of Woodstock. The lands are located on the east side of Blandford Streets between Nellis Street and Dundas Street and are municipally known as 50 Blandford Street. Andrea, I'll call on you for the application.
Thank you. So the final application tonight is for an official plan amendment and a zone change. As Councillor Talbot pointed out, the applicant is proposing to construct 3 townhouse units on the subject property. I should just point out too, the area is populated with a mix of single detached dwellings as well as townhouse units. And then there's Dundas Street to the immediate south, and then the fairgrounds to the northeast. And so there's a real mix of uses, commercial uses, higher density type uses, or these are actually medium density, I should say, and then lower density single detached dwellings. And so the applicant is based on the number of units per acre, which we just discussed in the last application. The applicant has, because they're proposing the 3 units on the property, they are in fact being kicked up to an official plan amendment to accommodate that density. And then they've also, so they're proposing to redesignate the land from low density to medium density, and then proposing to rezone the lands from our residential zone 2, which allows semis and duplexes and singles to an R3 special, which would accommodate these 3 townhouse units. And then the site specific zoning would decrease the interior side yard widths from a 3 meter interior side yard to 1.5 meters. So the 3 meter side yard is typical for townhouse units, but the 1.5 meter is more typical for, or actually is more than a single detached dwelling setback. So the single detached dwelling setback would be 1.2 meters. So the applicant is proposing a 1.5 meter setback, which would be more than a single. So if there was a single on this site, it could potentially be closer to the interior side yard. The applicant, as we can see, the applicant is proposing 2-story townhouses with single detached garages, and then each unit would have a parking space in front of the garage as well. The application was circulated to a number of agencies. Staff are supportive of the application. There was 1 tree removed that was with the permission of the Parks Department, and the tree will be compensated at a rate of 3 to 1. It was unhealthy, and so Parks is satisfied with the compensation, and that will be addressed through site plan. The application also went through the public notification process, and we did not receive any comments from neighboring property owners. We are supportive of the application. We feel it's a form of intensification, and it's in our opinion, it's a form of sensitive intensification. It's only proposing 3 units that will generally resemble other developments in the area. There, as I showed council earlier, there are the townhouses across the street. And they're 2-story townhouses, so they would resemble the single and 2-story buildings in the area. So we don't feel that it'll impact the character. We also feel that it's appropriate for the property. The site, I should have mentioned too, was previously part of a lot addition, where the applicant took a portion of 54 Blandford and added it to 50 to accommodate these 3 units. And so with the exception of the interior side yards, the applicant is able to accommodate all 3 units on the site as well as parking. They can adequately provide space for drainage, grading, outdoor amenity space, and landscaping. And they're not exceeding the overall lot coverage that's permitted for the R3 zone. And then again, they're also able to provide 2 parking spaces per unit. So based on that, staff are supportive of the applications and recommend approval for them.
Thank you. Are there any questions from council through to Andrea regarding the application? Councillor Schadenberg?
Thanks a lot. Yeah, from our chair to Andrea. I noticed on lot 77 and 76, the plan, that the middle car garage is wider than the other 2, therefore getting access to the backyard. Will these be sold separately, individually, or are these staying together on one title, therefore having tenant ownership, or is it going to be owner occupied? Again, we had that one situation on Adelaide Street where we had to give everyone access to sort of the backyard as far as not permitting fencing and stuff like that. But this one's got could have a back door to the one garage in the middle. So I'm curious if these will be townhouse properties that are going to be rentals or owner occupied. Do we know?
Through Councillor Talbot to Councillor Schadenberg. At this point in time, we don't know what the ownership formula would be for this site. That being said, with respect to the garage of the middle unit, sorry, I can quickly share it so that everyone can see what we're talking about. But yeah, generally when we have townhouse proposals, we require either an easement across the side yards to get so that the middle unit can have access to their rear yard. So for example, no one wants to carry a lawnmower through their house. And so we ask the developers usually that they provide either this access through by way of an easement to the rear yard, or we ask that they provide this access through the back of the garage to the rear yard. And generally the preference, it has been to provide the access through the garage, and then everyone has the ability to put their fences up and have their own privacy. And so, yeah, it makes it either way. We could condo the units if they have that easement or if they have the access to the rear yard. But I think it's more appealing to tenants or future owners to have that access by way of their garage.
Thank you. Councillor Schadenberg, anything further?
No, that's it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Andrea at this time? There is no one registered to speak on behalf of this application tonight, and there is no one registered to speak either in favor or against the application. So if there is no further business, all these applications will be dealt with on Thursday's council meeting. Maybe our deputy clerk can just clarify if there's, since Monday was a holiday, if there was an extension for people wanting to be delegations for Thursday's meeting.
Yep, so tomorrow by noon.
Tomorrow by noon, there you go. So if there is anyone that wishes to speak to the applications on Thursday at our council meeting, you have till tomorrow at noon. Seeing nothing further, I will go for adjournment, please.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Petter.
Seconded.
Seconded by Councillor Lauder. All in favor?